The single father Cowboy looked at the Black Widow and her two daughters huddled behind the overturned wagon and said the words that would change everything. "You're coming with me." Dawn broke cold over the charred remains of what had been the Heartfelt Washington homestead. Smoke still curled from blackened timber. The smell of ash hung thick in the morning air. Magnolia Washington pulled her daughters closer. Clementine, 12 years old with eyes too knowing for her age, kept watch while 8-year-old Rosebud pressed her face against her mother's worn dress. They had been hiding since the flames died down. The sound of hooves on hard earth made Magnolia's heart race. She peered around the wagon's broken wheel. A lone rider approached through the haze. Behind him, a boy sat rigid in the saddle. Jeremiah Thornwick dismounted with practiced ease. His boots hit the ground without sound. 10-year-old Marcus stayed mounted, watching everything with suspicious eyes. Jed studied the destruction. His weathered hands hung loose at his sides. The fire had been thorough. Nothing remained but foundation stones and twisted metal. "Ma'am." His voice carried the weight of hard years. "I'm Jed Thornwick. This is my son Marcus." Magnolia rose slowly. Her daughters flanked her like sentries. "Mr. Thornwick." "You can't stay here." The words hung in the air. Magnolia's jaw tightened. "We'll manage." "No." Yet's eyes swept the horizon. "You won't." Something in his tone made her pause. This wasn't charity. This was urgency wrapped in certainty. "I don't know you." Magnolia's voice stayed steady despite the tremor in her hands. "No time for knowing." Jed walked to his horse. "Pack what you can carry. We leave now." Marcus shifted in his saddle. His young face showed confusion mixed with resentment. "Pa, get down, son. Help the ladies." The boy obeyed, but his movements were stiff, reluctant. Magnolia watched this white man give orders like he owned the world. Maybe he did. Maybe that was how things worked out here, where the law was whatever a man could enforce. "Where exactly are you taking us?" she asked. "Home." One word, final as a gravestone. Clementine stepped forward. "Mama, we don't have anywhere else." The girl spoke truth that cut deep. Their neighbors had scattered or died. The nearest town was a day's ride through country that had turned hostile. Magnolia studied Yet's face. Weathered skin told stories of sun and wind. But his eyes held something else, recognition, like he knew exactly what had happened here. "Why?" she asked. "Because you're still breathing." Jed tightened his horse's cinch. "Won't be for long if you stay." The threat wasn't from him. She understood that now. Someone else was coming. Someone who wouldn't be satisfied with just burning buildings. Rosebud tugged at her mother's skirt. "Mama, I'm scared." The words broke something inside Magnolia. Her daughter shouldn't have to be scared. Shouldn't have to know that the world could turn violent without warning. "What's in it for you?" Magnolia asked. Jed paused. His hands stilled on the leather straps. "My wife would have wanted it." Past tense. Another widowmaker, this frontier. "Life," Marcus finally spoke up. "Pa, we don't have room." "We'll make room." The boy's face flushed. "But they're—" "Careful, son." Yet's voice carried warning. "Think before you speak." Marcus clamped his mouth shut, but his eyes burned with something that looked like betrayal. Magnolia made her choice. Not because she trusted this strange cowboy, but because staying meant dying. She could feel it in the way he kept checking the horizon, in the tension that radiated from his shoulders. "Girls, gather what you can." They moved quickly. There wasn't much left to take. A few dishes that hadn't shattered. Some clothes that smelled of smoke but weren't burned through. A small wooden horse that had been Rosebud's favorite. Jed watched them work. His son sat his horse like a statue. The family drama was playing out in silence. The boy felt displaced, threatened by strangers who would share his father's attention. "Ready," Magnolia stood with a small bundle in her arms. You'll ride with me. Jed looked at the girls. They can share Marcus's horse. I can walk. Clementine's voice held pride. No. Yet's tone brooked no argument. Too far. Too dangerous. He helped Magnolia mount behind him. She hesitated before putting her arms around his waist. The contact felt strange after months of widowhood, but necessary. The girls climbed up behind Marcus. The boy's shoulders stayed rigid. He didn't speak to them or acknowledge their presence. They rode out as the sun climbed higher. Behind them, the ruins of the Washington homestead grew smaller. Ahead lay uncertainty disguised as rescue. Magnolia felt the solid weight of Yet's back against her chest. Smelled leather and honest sweat. This man had appeared like something from a fever. Dream, too convenient, too knowing. How did you know to come? She asked quietly. Saw the smoke yesterday. Why didn't you come yesterday? His shoulders tensed. Had to be sure they were gone. They not it, not the fire, the people who set it. Who's they? Men who don't like folks settling where they don't belong. The words carried weight. Magnolia understood. This wasn't random violence. This was purpose. Someone wanted her family gone. Dead, maybe. What makes you think we'll be safe at your place? Don't know that you will be. Honest, brutal, real. Then why? Jed was quiet for a long moment. The horse's hooves beat steady rhythm against hard earth. Wind carried the smell of sage and distant rain. Because running won't stop them. And dying won't help your girls. Magnolia closed her eyes. Felt the movement of the horse beneath them. Felt the solid presence of this stranger who had become their salvation. Maybe their doom. Behind them, Marcus rode in sullen silence. The girls pressed close to him for balance. 3 children bound together by circumstance and fear. The landscape rolled past. Broken country healing from old wounds. Like all of them, maybe, scarred but still breathing. Still hoping for home. The Thornwick Ranch spread across a valley like a promise half kept. Weathered buildings hugged the earth. Fences needed mending. But the bones were solid. Jed helped Magnolia down from the horse. Her legs trembled from the long ride. The girls slid off Marcus's mount with careful grace. They stayed close to their mother, uncertain of this new ground. Marcus dismounted and led both horses toward the barn. His back spoke volumes, rigid, wounded. He moved through familiar routines while his world shifted around him. House is small, Jed said, but it's sound. The cabin sat low against the wind, logs chinked tight. Windows faced east toward the sunrise. A porch ran the length of the front, worn smooth by years of boots and weather. Magnolia studied the place that might become home, or might become another kind of trap. How long have you been here? 8 years. Built it for Sarah. His wife's name carried weight. Magnolia heard love in it. And loss that hadn't healed clean. They climbed the porch steps. Wood creaked under their feet. Jed opened the door and stepped aside. Let them enter first. The interior was sparse but clean. A stone fireplace dominated one wall. A table and chairs sat near the window. Everything had been arranged by careful hands, then left undisturbed. Girls can take the back room, Jed said. You can have Marcus's bed. He'll bunk with me. Marcus appeared in the doorway. His face flushed red. Pa, that's not fair. Life ain't fair, son. But we do what's right. The boy's hands clenched into fists. He wanted to say more. Wanted to rage against these strangers who had stolen his father's attention. But training held him back. Magnolia watched the exchange. Saw the pain in the boy's eyes. We don't need to displace anyone. The girls and I can manage together. No, Yet's voice was final. You'll have proper beds, rest you need. He moved to the kitchen area, began preparing coffee with practiced motions. The ritual gave his hand something to do while silence. Stretched between them, Clementine explored the main room. Her fingers traced the mantelpiece, found dust but also care. Someone had loved this place once. Rosebud stayed pressed against her mother's side. The day had been too much. Too many changes. Too many strangers. "Why did you really come for us?" Magnolia asked. Jed paused in his coffee making. Steam rose from the pot. "Told you." "Saw the smoke." "That's not an answer." Their eyes met across. The small space, something passed between them. Recognition of shared damage. Understanding that they were both survivors of losses that couldn't be spoken. "Had to be sure they were gone first," Jed said. "Couldn't risk Marcus." The admission hung in the air. He had watched their home burn, had waited while they huddled in terror. But he had also weighed the lives of his own family against theirs. "They'll be back," Magnolia said. "Not a question." "Maybe. What do they want?" Jed poured coffee into tin cups. His movements were deliberate, controlled. "Land. Always land. Our land wasn't worth much. Wasn't about the land itself." Magnolia felt cold settle in her bones. What then, about who was on it? The words carried the weight of truth. Someone had wanted the Washington family gone. Dead. The land was just excuse. Marcus edged closer to the conversation. His young face showed confusion mixed with growing understanding. The world was harder than he had known. "Who?" Magnolia asked. "Samuel Crowley. Owns most of the valley, not all of it." "No, not all." Jed handed her a cup. Their fingers brushed. The contact was brief but electric. She pulled her hand back quickly. "You're in his way too," she said. "I am. So you brought us here." "To make yourself a bigger target." Jed met her eyes steadily. "Brought you here because it was right." The simple words carried more weight than grand speeches. Magnolia studied his face. Saw the lines carved by sun and sorrow. Saw strength that had been tested and held. "Your wife," she said. "She would have done the same." She did. Many times, past tense again. But this time it carried something else. Pride. Sarah Thornwick had been a woman of substance. A woman who acted on her convictions. She helped people. She did. People like us. Jed nodded. Set down his coffee cup, walked to the window, and stared out at the fading light. "There's a root cellar," he said. "Hidden under the kitchen floor. If trouble comes, you take the children there. What about you? I'll handle trouble." Magnolia saw the set of his shoulders, the way his hands rested easy at his sides. This was a man who had faced violence before, who would face it again if necessary. "I won't hide while you fight our battles." "You will, for the girls." He was right. She would do anything to protect Clementine and Rosebud, even hide in a hole while others faced danger. "This Crowley," she said. "What's he want exactly?" "Wants the valley clean. Wants folks to know their place." "And our place?" "Gone." The word fell between them like a stone. Magnolia felt the weight of it, felt the reality of their situation settle around her shoulders. Then why fight? Why not just take us to town? Let us find our own way? Jed turned from the window. His eyes held something she couldn't name. Something that made her heart beat faster. "Because Sarah would haunt me if I did." "Sarah's dead. Some things don't die." Magnolia understood. Love outlived the flesh. Honor outlived safety. Some fights were worth having even when you couldn't win. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we eat, we rest. Tomorrow we figure out how to stay alive." Simple words. But they carried the weight of commitment. This stranger had bound his fate to theirs, had chosen their survival over his own safety. Marcus moved to stand beside his father. The boy's face was pale but determined. "Pa, if trouble comes, I want to help. You will help by protecting the girls." "That's not what I mean." "I know what you mean." Answers still no. Father and son stared at each other. The boy wanted to be a man. The man wanted to keep him a child a little longer. They killed their pa, Marcus said quietly. Yet's face went still. What? The girls. They told me on the ride. Their pa didn't die natural. Someone killed him. Magnolia felt the world tilt. Her daughters had spoken of things she hadn't wanted them to know, had carried secrets she thought were buried. Thomas didn't die in an accident, she said. No, Yet's voice was flat. He didn't. You knew. I suspected. Why didn't you tell me? Because you got enough grief without adding more. Magnolia sank into a chair, felt the weight of truth settle on her shoulders. Her husband hadn't died in a fall from his horse. He had been murdered. And somehow, this stranger knew more about it than she did. What else aren't you telling me? She asked. Jed moved to the fireplace, began building a fire with methodical precision, each piece of wood placed with care. Lots of things, he said. But nothing that'll help you sleep tonight. The fire caught. Flames licked at dry wood. Light danced across the walls, pushing back the growing darkness. Magnolia watched him work, saw the careful way he tended the fire, the gentle way he had treated her daughters, the protective way he looked at his son. This was a good man. A man who had chosen to stand between her family and the darkness. She didn't know why. Didn't understand what Sarah had been to him, that her memory could drive him to such risk. But she was grateful. More grateful than she could say. Thank you, she said. Jed looked up from the fire. Their eyes met across the small room. Something passed between them. Recognition, understanding, the beginning of trust. Don't thank me yet, he said. This ain't over. I know. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I know that too. You sure you want to stay? Magnolia looked at her daughters, saw them beginning to relax in the warmth of the fire, saw hope returning to their young faces. We're staying, she said. Good. Jed rose from beside the fire. Because I wasn't planning to let you go. 3 days passed before Magnolia found the hidden room. She had been cleaning the kitchen floor when the loose board shifted under her feet. The wood was cut different from the rest, newer, fitted with purpose. Her fingers found the edge, worked the board free. Below lay a space carved from earth and stone. Shelves lined the walls. Supplies filled every corner. Food, water, medicine. And something else. Maps. Magnolia lowered herself into the space. The air smelled of earth and secrets. Her hands traced the papers spread across a makeshift table. Routes marked in pencil. Safe houses circled in red. Names written in careful script. The sound of boots on the porch made her freeze. Magnolia? Yet's voice carried through the house. She climbed quickly from the hidden room, replaced the board, smoothed her skirts. But her heart hammered against her ribs. Jed entered the kitchen. His eyes went immediately to the floor, to the disturbed dust around the loose board. Found it, he said, not a question. A statement heavy with resignation. What is it? Sarah's work, mine now. He moved to the window, watched the children playing in the yard. Marcus and Clementine had begun to speak to each other, small words. Careful friendship. Your wife helped runaway slaves. She did. And you continued after she died. I did. Magnolia felt pieces clicking into place. The maps, the routes. The careful way Jed had approached their burning homestead. This wasn't random kindness. This was part of something larger. Thomas was involved. Jed turned from the window. His face was carved stone. Your husband was gathering information. About land deals. About who was buying what. About money changing hands under the table. He was working for you. He was working for justice. The words hung between them. Magnolia felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Her husband hadn't died in an accident. He had been murdered for the secrets he carried. What did he find? Proof that Crowley's been stealing land, forging deeds, murdering anyone who got in his way. Where is this proof? That's what Crowley wants to know. Magnolia sank into a chair, felt the weight of truth settling on her shoulders. Her family hadn't been burned out for their land. They had been targeted because of what Thomas knew. Do you have it? No. Then where? Thomas hid it. Somewhere safe. Somewhere only he knew. The kitchen filled with silence. Outside, the children's laughter drifted through the window. Normal sounds in an abnormal world. He's dead, Magnolia said. Yes, so the proof dies with him. Maybe. Something in Yet's tone made her look up. His eyes held possibilities she couldn't read. What aren't you telling me? Thomas was careful, methodical. He wouldn't have hidden something that important without leaving a way to find it. You think he left clues? I think he left a trail. For someone who knew how to read it. Magnolia rose from the chair, walked to the window, watched her daughters playing with Marcus, saw the tentative bonds forming between the children. Someone who knew him well, she said. Yes, someone he trusted. Yes. She turned to face him. He trusted you. He trusted his wife. The words hit her like a physical blow. Thomas had expected her to finish his work, to find the proof and see justice done. I don't know how. You know him better than anyone. Know how he thought, how he worked. I knew the man who fixed fences and tended crops, not the man who gathered secrets. Same man, different face. Jed moved to stand beside her. Their shoulders almost touched. She could feel the heat radiating from his body. He left you something, Jed said. Something that seemed innocent but wasn't. Magnolia closed her eyes, tried to remember. The days before Thomas died were blurred by grief and fear. But there had been something. A book, she said. What kind of book? Poetry. He said it was for me. Said I should read it when I missed him. Where is it? Gone. Burned with everything else. Yet's face fell. Hope died in his eyes. You. Sure. I'm sure. I saw it in the flames. They stood in silence. The weight of lost opportunity pressed down on them. Without the proof, Crowley would never face justice. Without justice, more families would die. There might be another way, Jed said finally. What way? We make him come to us. Make him reveal himself. How? By letting him think we know. Something. Magnolia felt cold settle in her bones. Use ourselves as bait. Yes, that's dangerous. Everything's dangerous now. She walked to the kitchen table, ran her fingers over the scarred wood. This table had seen family meals, had been witness to Sarah's planning, had held maps that led people to freedom. The children would be at risk. They're already at risk. Have been since the moment Thomas started asking questions. What about the people you help, the ones who follow Sarah's roots? They'll have to find another way. For now, the sacrifice was enormous. Jed was willing to abandon his wife's legacy to protect her family, to risk everything for people he barely knew. Why? She asked. Because it's what Sarah would have wanted. You don't know that. I do know it. She believed in justice, believed in protecting the innocent. You and your girls are innocent. Magnolia turned to face him, saw the determination in his eyes, the quiet strength that had drawn her from the first moment. What do you need from me? I need you to trust me. I do trust you. Even when it seems like I'm putting you in danger. Even then. He nodded, moved to the loose board, lifted it with practiced ease, descended into the hidden room. When he emerged, he carried a small wooden box. His hands shook slightly as he set it on the table. Sarah's jewelry, he said. Not worth much, but it was hers. He opened the box. Inside lay a simple gold band, a pair of earrings, a locket worn smooth by handling. I want you to have them. I can't take your wife's things. You're not taking them. I'm giving them. Magnolia looked at the jewelry, saw the love that had chosen each piece, the care that had preserved them. Why? Because if we're going to convince Crowley that we're together, really together, you need to look the part. The words carried implications that made her heart race. Together, not just sharing a house, not just hiding from danger. Together in the way that mattered. People will talk. Let them talk. They'll say things about us, about what we're doing. They'll say worse if we're dead. Jed lifted the locket from the box, held it up to the light. The gold caught fire from the window. Sarah wore this every day, he said. Right up until the end. I can't. You can. She would have wanted it. He moved behind her, lifted her hair, fastened the locket around her neck. His fingers brushed her skin. The contact sent electricity through her body. There, he said. Now you look like you belong. Magnolia touched the locket, felt the weight of it against her chest. The metal was warm from his hands. What happens now? Now we wait. Let word spread that the widow Washington is living at the Thornwick Ranch. Let people draw their own conclusions. And when Crowley comes, we'll be ready. The children burst through the door. Marcus led the way, his face flushed with excitement. Clementine and Rosebud followed, their earlier shyness forgotten. Pa, Marcus said, we found tracks by the creek, boot prints. Fresh ones. Yet's face went still. Show me. They followed. The children outside. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the yard. Everything looked peaceful, normal, but Magnolia felt eyes watching from the hills. The tracks were clear in the soft earth by the creek. Large boots, heavy tread. Someone had been watching the house. How many? Jed asked. 2 sets, Clementine said. Maybe 3. When? This morning. After we went inside for breakfast. Jed studied the tracks. His face revealed nothing, but his hands clenched into fists. Everyone back to the house, he said. Now, they moved quickly. Jed secured the door. Checked the windows. His movements were efficient, practiced. Are we in danger? Magnolia asked. We're always in danger. But now they know we know. Is that good or bad? Depends on how smart they are and how patient. Night fell with unusual quiet. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Magnolia sat by the window, watching the darkness. Jed cleaned his rifle. With methodical precision. The children slept in the back room. Their breathing was steady, peaceful. They trusted the adults to keep them safe. It's starting, Jed said softly. What's starting? The game. Crowley's made his move. Now we make ours. What's our move? We let him think he's winning until it's too late. Magnolia touched the locket at her throat. Felt the weight of Sarah's memory, the responsibility of continuing her work. I'm scared, she said. Good. Fear keeps you alive. What if we're wrong? What if there's another way? There's always another way. But not always a better one. The night stretched ahead of them. Full of possibilities. Full of dangers. Full of choices that would define the rest of their lives. Magnolia closed her eyes. Felt the weight of trust settling on her shoulders. Jed was asking her to risk everything. Her life. Her children's lives. Their future. But sometimes trust was the only weapon you had. Against the darkness. 2 weeks passed before the first threat arrived. A dead rabbit hung from the porch post at dawn. Its neck was snapped clean, a message tied to its hind leg with rough twine. Jed read the note in silence. His face revealed nothing, but his hands crumpled the paper into a tight ball. What does it say? Magnolia asked. Nothing worth repeating. He threw the paper into the fire, watched it burn to ash. The flames ate the words, but not their meaning. They're getting bolder, she said. They're getting desperate. The rabbit disappeared into the woods behind Yet's steady hands. The children never knew it existed. Some knowledge was too heavy for young shoulders. Life at the ranch had found its rhythm. Magnolia cooked meals that filled the house with warmth, mended clothes that had gone too long without care, brought order to corners that had forgotten a woman's touch. Marcus began leaving wildflowers on the kitchen table, small offerings to the woman who made his father smile. The gesture was tentative, hopeful. "He's trying," Magnolia said one evening. "He's scared," Jed replied. "Scared of losing what family he has left, and scared of gaining more. That too." They sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky. The children played in the yard. Their laughter carried on the evening breeze. "Clementine's been asking about school," Magnolia sighed. "Town school won't take her. I know. I could teach her, and Rosebud. Marcus too if he wants." Jed turned to look at her. Something moved behind his eyes, surprise, gratitude, something deeper. "You'd do that?" "I'd do a lot of things. For them, for him, for me." The question hung between them, loaded with possibilities, heavy with hope. "Yes," she said. "For you too." His hand found hers on the porch rail. Their fingers intertwined. The contact was electric, dangerous, real. "Magnolia, I know, it's complicated." "It's more than complicated. It's impossible." "Maybe, but impossible things happen every day out here." The sun disappeared behind the mountains. Stars emerged one by one. The night wrapped around them like a blanket. "Sarah's been gone 3 years," Jed said. "Thomas has been gone 6 months. People will talk. People always talk. They'll say things, ugly things. Let them." Yet's thumb traced circles on her palm. The gesture was unconscious, intimate, a man remembering what it felt like to touch a woman with tenderness. "I never thought I'd feel this again," he said. "Feel what?" "Hope." The word carried weight. Magnolia understood. Hope was dangerous. For people who had lost everything, hope made you vulnerable, made you believe in futures that might never come. "I'm scared," she said. "Of Crowley, of this, of us, of what happens if we're wrong. What if we're right?" "That scares me more." The children's voices drifted from the yard. Marcus was teaching the girls to catch fireflies. Their squeals of delight pierced the growing darkness. "Look at them," Magnolia said. "They're becoming family. Is that what we're doing? Becoming family?" Jed was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "I don't know what we're becoming, but I know I don't want it to stop." A horse nickered in the distance, too far away to be one of theirs. Yet's hand tightened on hers. "Inside," he said, "now." They gathered the children quickly. No explanations, no panic. Just the calm efficiency of people who knew danger walked in shadows. The house darkened, windows shuttered. The family huddled in the main room while Jed checked his weapons. "Stay quiet," he whispered. "Stay low." Hoofbeats approached the house, slow, deliberate, meant to be heard. "Thornwick," a voice called from the darkness. "We know you're in there." Jed moved to the window, peered through a gap in the shutters. 3 riders sat their horses in the yard. Their faces were hidden by shadow. "What do you want?" Jed called back. "Just to talk, man to man. We're talking." "Come outside. Show some courtesy." "I'm comfortable where I am." Laughter drifted from the yard. Cold, ugly, the sound of men who enjoyed other people's fear. "You got something belongs to us," the voice said. "I don't have anything of yours. That woman, those children, they're on the wrong side of the law." "What law?" "The law says certain people got to know their place." Magnolia felt ice form in her veins. These men weren't here for Thomas's evidence. They were here for her family. For the simple crime of existing where they weren't wanted. "They're under my protection," Jed said. "Your protection don't mean much." "Not anymore. Why don't you come find out?" Silence stretched between the house and the yard. 3 men against 1. But they couldn't be sure what waited in the darkness. How many guns? How much ammunition? How much determination? "This ain't over," the voice said finally. "Never thought." It was. The horses turned. Hoofbeats faded into the distance. But the threat remained, thick as smoke, heavy as storm clouds. Jed moved away from the window. His face was carved from granite, his hand steady on his rifle. "Are they gone?" Magnolia asked. "For now." "Will they be back?" "Yes." "When?" "When they think they can win." The children huddled together on the sofa. Marcus had his arms around both girls, protecting them with his small body. The sight made Magnolia's heart ache. "What do we do?" she asked. "We get ready." "For what?" "For war." The next morning brought visitors of a different sort. A wagon rolled into the yard just after sunrise. An elderly man held the reins. A woman sat beside him, her face weathered by years of prairie. "Wind, that's Doc Henderson," Jed said, "and his wife Martha." "Are they friendly?" "We'll find out." The Hendersons climbed down from their wagon, moved toward the house with purpose. The doctor carried a black bag. His wife carried a covered dish. "Morning, Jed," Doc Henderson called. "Heard you had company." "Doc, Martha, come up on the porch." They climbed the steps with careful dignity. Martha's eyes found Magnolia through the window. The assessment was quick, thorough, not unkind. "This is Magnolia Washington," Jed said, "and her daughters, Mrs. Washington." The doctor tipped his hat. "Heard about your troubles. Sorry for your loss." "Thank you." Martha stepped forward. Offered the covered dish. "Figured you might need some extra food." With all the mouths to feed. The gesture was small, simple, but it carried enormous meaning, support, acceptance, community. "That's very kind," Magnolia said. "Least we can do. Neighbors got to stick together." "Some folks might not see it that way," Jed said. "Some folks are idiots," Martha replied. "Always have been, always will be." Doc Henderson set down his bag, looked around the yard with professional interest. "Heard you had visitors last night," he said. "News travels fast. Bad news travels faster. You folks be careful. There's talk in town. Ugly talk." "What kind of talk?" "The kind that leads to trouble. The kind that gets people hurt." Martha moved to where the children played, knelt down to their level, spoke softly to Rosebud, who giggled at something she said. "She's good with children," Magnolia observed. "Lost 3 of her own," Jed said quietly. "Fever took them years ago. She's got love to spare. And you? Do you have love to spare?" The question slipped out before Magnolia could stop it. Too direct, too revealing, too honest. Jed looked at her, really looked. His eyes traced her face with careful attention, reading secrets written in the curve of her mouth, the set of her shoulders, the way she held herself against the world. "I'm learning," he said. "Learning what?" "Learning that love isn't something you run out of. It's something that grows. Gets stronger when you share it, even when it's dangerous." "Especially then," Doc Henderson cleared his throat. Reminded them they weren't alone. That declarations of love required witnesses or privacy. "We should be going," he said. "But if you need anything, anything at all, you send word." "We will." The Hendersons climbed back into their wagon, drove away with waves and promises to return. Their visit had been brief, but it changed something, broke the isolation, proved that not everyone in the valley had chosen sides against them. "Good people," Magnolia said. "The best. How many others like them? Not enough. But some. And how many like the men who came last night? Too many. But not all." They stood on the porch watching the Henderson wagon disappear. The morning sun climbed higher, burned off the dew, promised heat that would test everyone's resolve. "It's Going to get worse, Magnolia said. Yes, before it gets better. If it gets better. You don't think it will? Jed was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of experience. The knowledge of a man who had seen too much, lost too much. I think some fights are worth having even if you can't win them, he said. Is this one of those fights? Yes, then we fight. We fight, the words hung between them. A promise, a commitment. A declaration of war against forces that wanted to tear them apart. In the distance, storm clouds gathered on the horizon. The air grew heavy with the promise of rain or blood. Either way, the drought was about to end. The man standing in the kitchen doorway was a ghost made flesh. Thomas Washington looked older, thinner. His clothes hung loose on a frame that had known hunger. But his eyes burned with the same intensity that had driven him to seek justice. Magnolia's coffee cup shattered on the floor. Hello, Nolia, he said softly. The children froze at the kitchen table. Clementine's face went white. Rosebud's mouth opened in a perfect circle of shock. Papa, Rosebud whispered. Thomas stepped into the room. His movements were careful, controlled. A man who had learned to walk silently through dangerous places. Hello, baby girl. Jed appeared in the doorway behind Thomas. His rifle was lowered but ready. His face revealed nothing, but his eyes held questions that demanded answers. Girls, Magnolia said carefully, go to your room. But Mama, now. Clementine took Rosebud's hand, led her from the kitchen. Their footsteps echoed down the hall. A door closed softly. Marcus backed against the wall. His young face showed confusion. Fear. The stranger had turned his world upside down without saying a word. You're supposed to be dead, Magnolia said. I am dead. To everyone who matters. Your daughters matter. My daughters are why I stayed dead. Thomas moved to the window, peered through the curtains at the yard beyond. Old habits. Survival instincts. Who knows you're here? Jed asked. Nobody, I hope. You hope? I've been careful? But careful don't mean invisible. Magnolia sank into a chair, felt the foundations of her new life cracking beneath her feet. For weeks she had built something with Jed, something precious, something that felt like home. Now Thomas had returned to reclaim what was his. Why? Now, she asked. Because I found it, the proof. Everything Crowley's done, everyone he's killed. You said you hid it. I did, but not where anyone could find it, not even you. Thomas reached into his coat, pulled out a worn leather folder, set it on the table with reverent care. Names, dates, property transfers, murder contracts, everything. Jed moved closer, his eyes fixed on the folder. Years of work, Sarah's work, Thomas's work, all reduced to a few pages of paper. Is it enough? Jed asked. More than enough. If we can get it to the right people. Federal marshals? Already contacted them. They're coming. 3 days. Magnolia felt the world spinning around her. Everything was happening too fast. Too much change. Too many choices. The girls, she said, they think you're dead. Better they thought that than know the truth. What truth? Thomas sat across from her. His hands were scarred, calloused, the hands of a man who had worked hard to stay alive. The truth that their father is a wanted man. That men with guns hunt him, that anyone who helps him dies. Like you were supposed to die. Like I did die. Thomas Washington is buried in the church cemetery. Has been for months. Then who are you? A man with a job to finish. Marcus stepped forward. His young voice shook but held steady. Who's going to take care of us? He asked. All eyes turned to the boy. He stood straighter under their attention. Tried to look older than his years. I mean, if Mr. Washington takes his family back, what happens to us? The question hung in the air, innocent, devastating. a child's fear wrapped in practical concerns. Thomas looked at Jed. Something passed between the two men. Recognition, understanding, the weight of responsibility. "That depends, Thomas," said carefully. "On what? On what your father wants to do." Jed moved to stand beside his son. His hand rested on the boy's shoulder, protective, supportive. "I want to do what's right," Jed said. "What's right ain't always what's easy. Never has been." Magnolia watched the exchange, saw the careful dance of men trying to solve an impossible problem. Her heart belonged to Jed. Her duty belonged to Thomas. Her children belonged to both. "What are you asking?" she said. Thomas turned to face her. His eyes held pain, love, regret, the weight of choices that had cost him everything. "I'm asking you to choose," he said. "Choose what?" "Choose who you want to be, Thomas Washington's widow or Jed Thornwick's woman." The words cut deep. Magnolia felt them slice through her carefully constructed defenses, felt the raw truth of her situation exposed. "It's not that simple. It never is. The girls need stability. They need safety. They need their father. They need a father who's alive." Thomas flinched. The words hit their mark. He had abandoned his family to pursue justice, had left them to face danger alone. "I'm alive," he said. "Are you? Or are you just a ghost with unfinished business?" The kitchen fell silent. Outside, wind rattled the windows. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon. The weather matched the mood. "I have to see this through," Thomas said finally. "I know. Even if it costs me everything. I know that too. Including you." Magnolia met his eyes. Saw the man she had married, the father of her children, the person she had loved before the world turned violent. "You already lost me," she said gently, "the day you chose justice over family. I chose justice for our family. You chose justice for yourself." The accusation hung between them. Thomas's face crumpled. Years of sacrifice, years of loneliness, years of telling himself he was doing the right thing. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe you're right. It doesn't matter now. What matters is what happens next. What happens next is I finish this. I see Crowley, pay for what he's done, and then I disappear. Permanently this time." Jed stepped forward. His voice was quiet but firm. "You don't have to disappear. You could stay. Help us build something better. 3 adults. 3 children. 1 house, 1 woman. Stranger things have happened. Not out here, not in this world." Thomas was right. The frontier was hard enough without adding impossible complications. Society had rules, expectations, boundaries that couldn't be crossed. "So what do you want?" Magnolia asked. "I want my daughters to be safe. I want them to be happy. I want them to have a father who's there when they need him. And you can't be that father." "No, I can't." The admission broke something inside. Him. Magnolia saw it happen. Saw the moment when Thomas Washington truly died. When the man who had been her husband accepted his fate. "Jed can be that father," Thomas said. "If I'll let him. If you'll let him." Magnolia rose from her chair, walked to the window, looked out at the land that had become home. The place where she had found love again. Where her children had found stability. "What about us?" she asked. "What about what we've built?" "You've built something beautiful," Thomas said. "Don't let me destroy it." "You're not destroying anything. You're giving us a choice." Same thing sometimes. Footsteps in the hallway announced the children's return. They appeared in the doorway, uncertain, scared, caught between 2 worlds. "Papa," Clementine said carefully. "Are you staying?" Thomas looked at his daughter, saw the hope in her eyes, the fear, the love that had never died despite his long absence. "For a little while," he said, and then I go away again. But this time you'll know why." and you'll know I love you. Can't you stay forever? No, sweetheart, I can't. Why? Not? Thomas glanced at Jed, at Magnolia, at the life they had built in his absence. Because sometimes love means letting go, he said. Rosebud ran to her father, threw her arms around his waist, buried her face in his worn shirt. I missed you, she whispered. I missed you too, baby girl. But even as he held his daughter, Thomas's eyes found Magnolia, found the truth written in her face. She had moved on, had found love again, had built a new life from the ashes of the old. 3 days, he said quietly. 3 days, she agreed. Then it's finished. Then it's finished. The storm broke outside. Rain hammered the roof. Lightning split the sky. Thunder rolled across the valley like the voice of God. Inside the kitchen, 2 men and 1 woman faced the hardest choice of their lives. Love, duty, justice, family, all of them pulling in different directions. All of them demanding sacrifice. The rain continued to fall, washing the earth clean, preparing the ground for whatever would grow next. If anything could grow from such broken soil. The federal marshals arrived at dawn on the 3rd day. 2 men in dark coats rode into the yard with the sunrise at their backs. Their horses were tired. Their faces were harder. Marshal James Crawford dismounted with the careful movements of a man who had seen too much. His partner, Marshal Robert Hayes, stayed mounted, eyes scanning the horizon. Thomas Washington? Crawford asked. Here. Thomas stepped from the house. His hand rested easy near his gun. Old habits. You've got something for us. I do. Thomas handed over the leather folder. Crawford opened it carefully. Read the first page. His face grew grim. This is solid, he said. Solid enough to hang him? Solid enough to put him away forever. The words carried weight. Justice, finally, after years of death and fear. Where's Crowley now? Hayes asked. His ranch, 10 miles south. How? Many men? 6, maybe 8. Armed, all of them. Crawford closed the folder, tucked it inside his coat. The evidence was safe now, in the hands of the law. We'll need you to testify, he said. I'll testify. Could be dangerous. Crowley's got friends, people who don't want this getting out. Let them come. Jed stepped forward. His rifle hung loose in his hands, ready but not threatening. What about protection? He asked. We'll do what we can, but this is big. Bigger than just land deals. How big? Territorial government big. Federal judge big. Someone's been protecting Crowley for years. The implications settled over them heavy. Corruption reached higher than they had imagined. More dangerous than they had feared. When do we move? Thomas asked. Today, before word gets out that we're here. What about the families? Crawford looked at the house. Saw faces in the windows, children watching with wide eyes. They stay here, keep them safe. And if Crowley's men come? Then, you do what you have to do. The marshals mounted their horses, prepared to ride toward justice, or toward their deaths. Thomas, Crawford said. You sure about this? I'm sure. No going back once we start. Never planned to go back. The marshals rode south toward Crowley's ranch. Thomas watched them disappear into the morning haze. Then he turned to face the hardest conversation of his life. It's time, he said. They gathered in the main room. The children sat together on the sofa. Magnolia stood by the window. Jed remained near the door. The marshals will arrest Crowley today, Thomas said. This time tomorrow, he'll be in custody. What about his men? Jed asked. Some will run. Some will fight. Some will come looking for revenge, looking for us, looking for me. But you'll be in the way. The truth hung between them. Even with Crowley gone, the danger remained. His men, his allies, his friends in high places. So what do we do? Magnolia asked. We do what we planned, I disappear. You stay. You build the life you deserve, Papa, Clementine said. Don't go. Thomas knelt beside his daughter, took her hands in his scarred ones. I have to go, sweetheart. But you'll be safe here. Jed will take care of you. I want you to take care of me. I can't, not anymore. But I can give you something better. What? I can give you a father who'll be here every day, every night, when you need him. Thomas looked at Jed, saw the good man who had risked everything for strangers, who had opened his heart to a ready-made family. If he'll have you, Thomas said. If I'll have them? Jed stepped forward. They're already mine, in every way that matters. And their mother? Especially their mother. Magnolia felt tears burn her eyes, heard the truth spoken aloud, felt the weight of choice lifting from her shoulders. Thomas, she said gently, I'll always love the man you were, but I love the man he is now. I know, and I'm grateful. For what? For finding someone worthy of you. Someone who put family first. Thomas rose, walked to the window, looked out at the land that had cost him everything, the land that had given him purpose, the land that would never be his home. I'll send word when it's safe, he said. When Crowley's network is broken, when the corruption is cleaned out, and if it's never safe, then you'll never hear from me again. The finality of it hit them all. Thomas Washington was choosing to disappear, to become a ghost, to let his family live without the shadow of his past. The girls need to know. Magnolia said, They know, they understand. Do they? Thomas turned from the window. His eyes held peace, resolution, the calm of a man who had made his choice. They understand that sometimes love means sacrifice, that sometimes the best thing a father can do is step aside. Gunshots echoed from the south. Distant but clear, the marshals had found Crowley. It's starting, Jed said. It's ending, Thomas corrected. They waited in tense silence, listening to the sounds of battle carried on the wind. Justice being served at gunpoint, the old way. The only way that worked out here. The shooting stopped. Silence returned to this valley. Somewhere to the south, Samuel Crowley was either dead or in custody. Is it over? Rosebud asked. It's over, Thomas said. The bad man can't hurt anyone anymore. Are you going away now? Yes, baby girl. I'm going away. Forever, maybe, but you'll be safe. You'll be loved. You'll be happy. Will you be happy? Thomas looked at his youngest daughter, saw innocence asking the hardest question of all. I'll be happy knowing you're safe, he sighed. A horse approached the house. Single rider. Moving fast. They tensed, ready for trouble. Marshal Crawford appeared over the hill. His face was grim, but satisfied. It's done, he called. Crowley's dead. His men scattered. All of them? The ones that matter. The rest will think twice before coming. After you. Relief flooded through the house. Years of fear ending in a single moment. Justice served. Safety restored. What about the corruption? Thomas asked. We'll handle that, but it'll take time. You'll need to stay hidden until we clean house. I understand. You're a good man, Thomas Washington. History will remember what you did here. History can forget. As long as my family remembers. Crawford tipped his hat, rode away toward town, toward trials and testimony, toward the slow work of rebuilding justice. Thomas gathered his few possessions, prepared to disappear into the wilderness, to become a legend, a ghost story, a man who had chosen justice over happiness. Before you go, Jed said. Yes? Sarah's ring. The one I gave to Magnolia. Thomas looked at his wife's hand, saw the simple gold band that had belonged to another woman. Another life. Keep it, he said. Sarah would have wanted her to have it. You sure? I'm sure about everything now. The goodbyes were brief, painful, final. Thomas kissed his daughters, shook hands with Marcus, embraced the man who would raise his children. "Take care of them," he said. "I will. All of them. All of them." Thomas mounted his horse, looked back at the house one last time, saw his family standing on the porch, safe, together, home. "Goodbye, Nolia," he said. "Goodbye, Thomas." He rode away as the sun climbed higher, became a speck on the horizon. Then nothing at all. The family stood on the porch watching until he disappeared. Then they went inside, closed the door, began the rest of their lives. That evening, Jed and Magnolia sat on the porch watching the sunset. The children played in the yard. Their laughter carried on the evening breeze. "Any regrets?" Jed asked. "None," Magnolia said. "You? Only that it took so long to find you. We found each other when we needed to, at dawn. At dawn." The sun disappeared behind the mountains. Stars emerged one by one. The night wrapped around them like a blessing. Inside the house, Marcus read stories to his new sisters. There, voices drifted through the windows, the sound of family, the sound of home, the sound of love that had grown from ashes, love that had survived fire, love that would last forever, or at least until the next dawn brought new challenges, new choices, new chances to prove that family was what you made it, not what you were born into, but what you chose to build, what you chose to protect, what you chose to call home. The frontier was still hard, still dangerous, still unforgiving, but it was also full of possibilities, full of second chances, full of people brave enough to love again, people brave enough to say, "You're coming with me," people brave enough to mean it, people brave enough to build home from nothing but hope. Dawn would come again. It always did, and with it, new chances to prove that love was stronger than fear, that family was stronger than blood, that home was stronger than the forces that tried to tear it apart. The Washington Thornwick family was ready for whatever came next, together, forever, home, and that is all to the story. For now, please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel, and if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you, it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.